Hey friends, welcome to our channel, where we bring you knowledge from books in a simple and interesting way. Today, we got the story of a book that has changed the thinking and lives of millions. We're talking about Robert Kiyosaki's bestseller, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. This book gives you a deep understanding of money, financial education, and the mindset needed to become rich. It tells the story of two dads, one rich, one poor, and how their thoughts and decisions shaped their financial situations. That's what this book is all about. The main message of this video is that we're going to explain the 6 lessons, the most important principles, and inspiring stories from Rich Dad, Poor Dad in a simple way. If you want to improve your financial life, this video will act like a guide for you. Here, you'll learn how money can work for you, the difference between assets and liabilities, why financial education is more important than your school syllabus, and how rich people become rich because of their mindset. If you like the video, please like and share it. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel because our goal is to give you knowledge that can really change your life. So, without wasting any time, let's dive into this amazing journey and find out what Robert Kiyosaki's great book has taught us. Here's the thing. Robert Kiyosaki, the author of this book, had 2 dads. One was highly educated, even had a PhD, but lived in poverty his whole life and died poor. That's why Robert called him his poor dad. On the other hand, his other dad wasn't as educated, but he was pretty rich, so Robert called him Rich Dad. Now, the question is, how can a person have 2 dads at the same time? The answer is that his poor dad, his real dad, had just one dream, that Robert would study hard, get a job at a big company, and secure his future. But Robert's other dad, who was rich, was actually the father of Robert's friend Mike, and he wanted Robert to learn something challenging in life. Some lessons are the kind that you can only learn through life experiences. If you only learn from experience, then school education can get you good grades, but life teaches you much more. Sure, education is important, but you can't achieve everything by relying on it alone. So, let's find out exactly what we need to do and how to do it. The first lesson says that rich people don't work just for money. It sounds a bit strange, but this story will help you understand that better. There was a man who had a pit, and whenever he needed some hard work from his donkey, whenever he needed something done, he'd hang a carrot right in front of the donkey. The donkey, seeing the carrot, would keep working, tempted by the thought of eating it. He really believed that one day he'd reach the carrot. For the man, it was a clever trick to get work done, but poor donkey never actually got the carrot. Now, want to know why? Because that carrot was just an illusion. A lot of people are just like that donkey. They keep working hard, hoping one day they'll get rich. But money remains nothing more than a dream for them. Chasing dreams won't get you there. So instead of working for money, let your money work for you. When you want to become rich, don't just work to earn money. The way we step towards wealth, fear and greed start taking over us, worrying that we might stay poor forever. Out of that fear, we work even harder, but then greed takes control. We start imagining all the beautiful things money can buy, and that's where fear and greed get us stuck in a never-ending cycle. So, we work even harder to earn more, and then our expenses start increasing accordingly. This is what the rich dad calls the rat race. The result is that we overwork and overspend to make money, and this becomes a trap. You need to avoid this trap of greed and fear, because most of us who want to be rich end up falling into it. So, don't chase money. Make money chase you. If you got a job, don't just go to work thinking you'll get a paycheck every month, because that paycheck barely covers your bills. This becomes a routine struggle. Frustrated, you start looking for another job and end up working even harder. But even then, you're just working for money, and that's why you never really get rich. Face the truth. Your responsibility is to yourself, not others. So ask yourself whatever questions you have, because only you can answer them. Do you only work just to have security in your life? A job where you don't have to worry about getting fired? Or do you just work to earn a little money, thinking that one day you'll get rich this way? Is that really enough to satisfy you? If your answer is yes, then I feel sorry for your mindset, because the dream of becoming rich that you have will never come true. You'll always remain poor. But if your answer is no, then your first step should be to get rid of the fear in your mind. Step back. because the fear of not making enough money and greed push you to act without thinking, and this very mindset is what's leading us toward failure. Sure, we all have fear and desire inside us. That's natural. But don't let them control you so much that you start making reckless decisions. It's better to think things through before you act. Don't always follow your heart. Sometimes listen to your mind. Every morning, ask yourself, are you doing as much as you should be? Are you giving your best? Stop thinking like ordinary people who aren't making full use of their potential. Quit doing work just for the money. Stop thinking, my boss pays me less, I deserve more, or I can earn more than this. Remember, you're the only one responsible for your problems, no one else. If your boss isn't giving you a raise, don't blame them. When you take responsibility for your own problems, only then can you find the solution. This is the first lesson in principle that Rich Dad taught. Part of the lesson Robert learned was that his rich dad got him a job at a convenience store, but he didn't get paid for it. He just kept working, and the benefit was that he stayed truly engaged with the work. During that time, a lot of new ideas came to his mind about how to make money chase him instead of the other way around. He noticed that the store clerk would tear the front page of comic books in half, keeping one half and throwing the other away. So, late in the evening at the store, the distributor used to come and take the top half of the comics for credit, but in return, he would give new comics. One day, they asked the distributor if they could take the old comics instead. He agreed on the condition that they wouldn't sell those comics. This gave them a new business idea. They started renting out the old comics to their friends and other kids to read, charging 10 cents per book for a 2-hour reading period. They weren't really selling to them. They didn't even have to work at that garage where they rented out comics. They hired Mike's sister, and she got paid $5 every week. So, in just 1 week, they made $9.5. That's how they learned to let money work for them instead of working for money. Now, moving on to the second lesson about why financial literacy should be taught. Back in 1923, there was a meeting at the Edgewater Beach Hotel in Chicago. A lot of world leaders and super-rich businessmen took part in this meeting, including Charles Schwab, the owner of a huge steel company, and Samuel Insull, who was the largest utility president at the time, along with several other big businessmen. But 25 years after this meeting, many of them died in poverty. Some committed suicide, and quite a few lost their mental balance. The real point is, people get so caught up in making money that they forget the important lesson of how to keep it safe, no matter how much they earn. Sticking with it is what really counts. And if you've learned this skill, then no matter what tough or tricky situations come up, like when people say there's an emergency or we'll just handle it later, or if you plan things right, bad times might not even show up. Sure, people who win millions in the lottery enjoy life for a few years, but then they usually end up right back where they started. Most people wonder how to get rich or what they need to do to become wealthy, but the answers to these questions often just leave them disappointed. The real answer is that you first need to get your financial, learn to become literate. Look, if you want to build the Empire State Building, you first need to dig a deep hole and lay a strong foundation. But if you just want to build a small house, a simple 6-inch concrete slab will do the job. The problem is most of us try to build the Empire State Building on just that 6-inch slab. And when we do, of course, the building is going to collapse. Poor Dad Robert just wanted his kids to study hard. But Rich Dad, they wanted to make him financially literate. But most school systems just teach you how to build a house, not a strong foundation. School education and studying are important, no doubt, but that's not everything in real life. And here comes the third lesson. Understand the difference between liabilities and assets, and always buy assets. It sounds simple, right? But this rule is what will help you get rich. Often, poor and middle-class people mistake liabilities, that is, responsibilities, for assets, thinking they own property. But rich people know what assets really are, and they buy only those. Rich Dad means those who believe in the KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. That's what he taught the author and his friend Mike, which helped him build a strong foundation. The simple thing is to understand the difference between liabilities, meaning your responsibilities, and assets, meaning your properties, and to buy assets. But if it's that simple, then everyone would be rich, right? Well, actually, it's not that straightforward. It's so simple that hardly anyone even thinks about it. People assume they know the difference between liabilities and assets, but they only understand basic literacy, not financial literacy. What this means is you should treat the income statement as a profit and loss statement. Simply put, income shows how much money came in, and expenses show how much money went out. The balance sheet shows the balance between assets and liabilities. Even many educated accountants don't really get this. So, how exactly are the balance sheet and income statement connected? To get it, think of assets as things that make money for you. For example, if you buy a house and rent out, the rent you get can help you pay off the loan you took to buy the house. So, you own the house and you're making money from it. On the other hand, liabilities are things that cost you money. Like if you buy a house to live in, you won't get any rent from it. Now you get it. If you want to get rich, buy assets. If you want to stay poor, keep in mind that rich people have more money because they believe in the keep it simple, stupid, KISS principle. On the other hand, poor people just don't really get this principle. That's why the focus is on becoming not just literate, but financially literate. Just knowing numbers is enough. The difference comes when you start writing your own story. In most families, it's seen that the hardworking person usually has more money, but what's the point if all that money ends up going towards liabilities? So, let's understand how a middle-class person spend their money. If they keep spending like this, they'll remain middle class their whole life, or maybe even fall lower. You can see that all their money goes into liabilities. That is, their responsibilities. Sometimes it's a mortgage, sometimes rent, car loans, home loans, credit card bills, school fees, electricity bills, and who knows what else. All their earnings get used up in these. On the other hand, there are poor people who don't have liabilities, but they also don't have any assets. Still, they earn money. They get a salary, but it all gets spent on daily expenses. Let's say a poor guy makes $1,000. Out of that, $200 goes to rent for his small house, $100 for transportation, $100 in taxes, and $200 on food and clothes. So what's left? Nothing. Sometimes he even has to borrow money to get by, which only makes him poorer. On the other hand, rich people buy assets, and those assets make them more money. Their income grows from doubling to quadrupling, and then from quadrupling to 8 times. Most rich people use their brains. They take out loans and rent out the property, so they get rent every month without doing any hard work. That rent helps them pay off their loans. Think of it like this. If your loan installment is $2, you rent out your place for $2, pay the bank, and keep the rest. See? Making money without working hard. Actually, the difference between a rich dad and a poor dad is just their mindset, how they choose to spend their money. That's the whole point, nothing else. Back in 1967, when kids were asked what they wanted to be when they grew up, everyone would say they'd get good grades and become a doctor or an engineer. Back then, people thought that by getting good grades, they could make a lot of money. And sure, many of those kids did grow up to become doctors. But even now, quite a few of them still struggle financially because they always believed that making more money would solve all their problems. But that's not the case nowadays. Today, many kids want to become famous athletes, or maybe a CEO or a movie star or a rock star, because they know that just good studies and good grades alone won't get you success in your career these days. Financial nightmares have become really common now. Often, newly married couples think their salary will double since both are earning. Living in a small house, they start dreaming of a bigger home. That's why they begin saving money. Because of this, all their focus is just on building their career. As their income starts to increase, obviously it goes accordingly. Expenses will go up too. The thing is, when you start making money without being financially literate or spend without thinking, you end up spending even more than before. It's a cycle that keeps repeating. The new couple has now earned enough to buy a big house, so they feel like they've gotten richer. But the reality is, along with the big house, they've also taken on new liabilities. Their cash flow now has to cover property tax, and on top of that, they need a new car too. They want furniture. They want everything brand new. Their liabilities just keep piling up, and usually what happens is that as their income increases, so do their expenses. Then one day, this truth suddenly hits them, but by then, they're already badly stuck in this rat race. That's when people come to our author Robert and ask, how do I get rich? That question is the real problem, because everyone thinks money is the cure for everything. Believing that is a huge mistake. Their problem isn't that they're not making enough money, but that how to handle what you've got. There's a saying that fits here. When you find yourself in a deep hole, stop digging. Most people are scared of public speaking. Psychiatrists believe this fear comes from a fear of rejection and being different. People worry about what others will think or if they'll be laughed at. Because of this, most folks avoid public speaking and just stick to doing what everyone else is doing. People get satisfied just by blending into the crowd. Your home is your biggest asset. Take a loan. Hey, you got a promotion, your salary increased. So why not buy a new house? We keep hearing stuff like this, and then we end up following the same path because if so many people are doing it, it must be right, right? But that's not true at all. My rich dad used to say that the Japanese knew the power of three things: swords, precious jewels, and mirrors. A sword represents the strength of your arms. Precious jewels symbolize the power of money, and a mirror shows a hidden strength within yourself. And that's our greatest strength. When you truly know yourself, standing in front of a mirror, if you can ask yourself, am I doing the right thing or am I just following the crowd? The answer you get is your real power. Poor and middle-class people let money control them, and that's why they never become rich. 16-year-olds Robert and Mike used to attend every meeting their rich dad had with his accountants, managers, and investors. You often find employees working for a wealthy dad who isn't educated. He dropped out of school after just 13 years, but now he can run meetings and give orders to educated people working under him. He gives business tips, too. He's someone who never just followed the crowd, took risks, didn't care what people thought about him. Because of these meetings, the writer and his friend both lost interest in their school studies. Whenever their teacher, she used to give them work that had to be done by the rules, and that's when she realized how school education actually stifles kids' talents. Instead of helping them shine, it suppresses their creativity, forcing them into a mold and turning them into just another cog in the machine of society. She also disagreed with the teacher's idea that only by getting good grades can you become successful and rich. One day, Robert had an argument with his poor dad. His father believed that their home was the best investment for him, but Robert felt like he was stuck in a rat race. Their income and expenses were exactly the same, so they didn't have a single moment to spare. This is what Robert was trying to explain. That for their dad, the house wasn't an asset but a liability. Money was just going into the house, but nothing was coming back. Their poor dad just couldn't get this. That's basically the difference between a poor dad and a rich dad. Anyway, their argument went on. Robert told his poor dad that most people spend their whole lives just paying off loans. The house they buy, they end up paying for it with a loan for 30 years straight. And then, let's buy a bigger house and renew our loan. Whether the house price will increase accordingly or not depends. Some people have taken a huge loan to buy a house, even more than a house's actual price. The biggest problem for them is that they can't invest anywhere else because all their money is tied up in that house. They never get a chance to invest or learn about it. And in this way, many assets slip out of their hands. Instead, if we focus on assets, their future could be way better. For example, Robert's wife's parents moved into a big house. They thought buying a bigger, new house was the right move because, like everyone else, they saw a house as an asset. But they were shocked to find out the property tax on that house was $1,000. That was a huge cost for them, and since they were retired, paying that much in taxes wasn't something they could afford on their retirement budget. Of course, we're not saying you shouldn't buy a new house, but we want to explain that instead of spending money on a big house right away, it's better to invest that money in some asset. That asset will earn for you, and after a while, you'll have enough cash to easily buy your dream home without taking any loans. So, the real question is, why do rich people keep getting richer while the middle class struggles to move ahead? There's a simple reason behind this. Rich people buy assets that keep doubling their money, which comfortably covers all their expenses. And what does the middle class do? People just wait for the payday each month. But as soon as the salary comes in, it's all spent just covering expenses. So, where's the investment going to come from? Then, when the salary increases, the taxes go up too, and so do all the other expenses. It's like a constant rat race. What I'm trying to say is, we live in a society drowning in debt. The main reason is that we treat our house as an asset, which ends up bearing us under loan burdens. This is how most people think today. If their salary goes up, they immediately think about buying a bigger house. They think it's the best way to use their money. But if that money were invested in the right place, their life could change forever. The problem is, they spend all their time working themselves to bone. They see their job as a safe zone and can't even imagine doing something different. Plus, they're so weighed down by debt that they can't risk quitting. Now, ask yourself, if you quit your job today, how long could you get by? Because if you're not financially literate and have spent your whole life just living off a salary, if you've taken on liabilities in exchange for assets, then clearly you're facing a tough challenge. You can't just rely on net worth alone. Net worth shows how much money you actually have, even if it's tied up in an old car sitting in the garage that's basically useless. But wealth means how much money you're making from what you have. For example, if you own an asset that earns you $3,000 every month and your monthly expenses are $3,000, then you're only covered for half the month. If you want to get by, the solution is to increase the money you earn from your assets. When you start getting that cash, you won't become rich overnight, but you will start getting wealthy. Even if you suddenly quit your job, your assets will cover all your expenses. You can only become wealthy when your expenses are less than the growth of your assets. And along with this comes a fourth lesson, which says mind your own business. The founder of the world's biggest food chain, McDonald's, Ray Kroc, gave a speech in an MBA class back in 1947. And he said this. The speech was really awesome. After giving such an inspiring talk, when the MBA students asked to spend some time with him, he went out for a beer with them. While chatting, Reese suddenly asked, "Do you guys know what business I'm actually in?" Everyone already knew he sold hamburgers, so they laughed and he said, "My real business is real estate because every location for McDonald's franchises is carefully chosen and the land is sold along with it. It basically means that the person who owned the McDonald's franchise also had to buy the land, so it turned into a real estate business as well. This is a lesson that Rich Dan taught Robert, that often people work for everyone else except themselves. They pay taxes and end up working for the government. They work for the company they're employed at. They pay hefty bank interest and work for the bank. And all this happens because our education system is designed that way. Schools teach us to be employees, not employers. Whatever you study, that's what you become. If you studied science, you become a doctor. If you study mathematics, you become an engineer. Basically, whatever you studied, that's what you become. But here's the problem. This doesn't really help students because they get stuck trying to figure out the difference between a job and a business. When someone asks, "What's your business?" you shouldn't say, "I'm a doctor" or "I'm a banker," because that's just your profession, not a business. Not calling it a business means you should turn whatever you do into your own business, instead of working your whole life for someone else and making them rich. Don't just complain later. Instead, work on making your life better. Many people realize too late that their home loan is actually draining them, and then they see that what they thought was an asset wasn't really one at all. Like when they buy a car, all the costs that come with it turn into liabilities. And that's when their problems start. That's why we emphasize assets so much, not just your income. And this is what financial experts really mean by assets. I'm not saying that. Get yourself a car because, in my opinion, it's not really an asset. The moment you start using it, it loses 25% of its value. Now, what kind of asset should you buy? Here are a few examples. A business that doesn't need you to be there all the time. Something others can run for you. If you have to spend too much time on it, it's a job, not a business. Second, invest in real estate. Third, buy stocks and bonds. When you buy assets, put your money into things you actually like and care about, because you'll only stick with it if you're genuinely interested. You'll pay attention only if you're interested, and then you'll understand it better. Robert was interested in real estate and stocks, especially investing in small companies. Following his rich dad's advice, he never quit his job. He kept working while steadily growing and strengthening his asset column. Don't let a single penny you earn go to waste. Treat your money like your servant. Make it work for you. If you want to buy luxury stuff, go ahead and buy it for fun. No big deal. But don't forget, this is exactly where the mindset difference lies between the rich and the middle class. Where the middle class, as soon as someone gets money, they spend it on luxury first. But a rich person buys it last. Understanding this, in the next lesson, you'll learn the biggest secret of rich people. The fifth lesson says that rich people invent money. After Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone, he patented it. His business grew so much that it became hard to manage. So he went to Western Union and offered to sell his patent and small company for $100,000. The president of Western Union at the time rejected the offer. They felt the price was a bit too high. And then a big company, AT&T, was born. Robert has been teaching professionally since 1984. After teaching thousands of people, he realized one thing. Everyone has potential. In fact, every single person has a potential to be great. But what holds us back is doubting ourselves. After dropping out of school, we realize that grades alone aren't enough to move forward in life. It's not just the smart ones who succeed, but those who are bold too. Yeah, it's true that to be a financial genius, you need to have the knowledge, but you also need guts and boldness. Most people don't want to take any risks with money, but to get rich, you got to take some risks. Because maybe in the coming years, a new Bill Gates or Alexander the Great will emerge, and the rest might go broke and poor. It's up to you who you want to be. If you boost your financial IQ, you can achieve a lot. But if you don't, the coming years could get even scarier. Things change because as the old goes, the new comes in. So the present moment is actually the happiest time. Nowadays, people struggle more financially because their mindset is still stuck in the past. Instead of admitting their mistakes, they blame their boss or new technology, which was once an asset but now feels like a liability. So you need to stay updated. Robert designed a game called Kinch Flow that teaches people how money works, the path to becoming rich, and how to get out of the rat race. Everything in this game is explained through this story. One day, a woman came to play the game, and during the game, she won a boat card, which meant she had won a boat in the game. She was really happy, but when she found out that she had to pay a big amount of tax to claim the boat, her happiness disappeared. The boat wasn't an asset for her anymore. It became a liability. She realized that this boat could actually ruin her. She didn't understand this idea and asked for a refund. She got her money back and left. But later, she called and said that now she was starting to get the hang of the idea, connecting the game to her own life and seeing how money works. Her anger was justified because she didn't understand it. We often do the same. When something is beyond our understanding, we get angry and start blaming it for every problem in life. But if we think calmly, that approach is totally wrong. It's better to try to understand it. Then we can actually win the game of life. Lots of people win big money in the cash flow game, but then they don't even know what to do with it. What happens is that they get surprised because of their old mindset that doesn't let them move forward, and then they end up losing all their money. Some people say they lost because they didn't have the right cards. Many people keep waiting in life for the perfect opportunity. Some even get the right chance but can't make the most of it, saying they didn't have the money. Then there are those who get both money and opportunity but still don't achieve anything because actually they don't even understand that this is one. Opportunity is all about financial intelligence. How creative you can get with money. If you get a chance but no money, what would you do? And if you have money but no chance, what then? It all depends on your financial intelligence. Most people think the only way is to work hard and earn a lot of money, but you need to learn how to create opportunities for yourself instead of just waiting around. The biggest thing about rich people is they know money isn't the real deal. The real deal is knowing the real meaning of this is understanding that we can create what we want from it. Our mind is our biggest asset. It can make us super rich or super poor, depending on how we use it. If you want to walk alongside successful people, you need to learn how to build a desire to grow your money within yourself. You have to invest in your biggest asset, your mind. You need to become financially intelligent. So let's understand this with an example from the 1990s in Arizona and Phoenix. The economic situation was pretty rough, and people there were being advised to save $100 every month. Saving money for tough times isn't a bad idea to some extent, But what's the use of just hoarding cash? It's better to invest some of it, so it can actually work for you later on. Anyway, let's talk about the people in Arizona and Phoenix who were struggling financially. For investors, this was a golden opportunity. People were selling their properties for way less than they were worth, and many investors snapped them up quickly. Robert was one of them too. They bought a house worth $0 for just $0. After that, they put an ad in the office. House worth $0 for only $60,000. Customers started flooding in to buy it. Robert's phone just wouldn't stop ringing because that money was coming from the asset they got from the customer as the primary note. It only took him 5 hours to make that money. The $40,000 they invested was created from their asset column, and without paying any tax, they took advantage of this sudden opportunity to add that money to their income column. Just a few years in, their business made enough money that their company car, gas, insurance, dinners with clients, and other expenses were all covered until the government started taxing those costs. Most of these expenses were already counted as pre-tax. A few years later, the house that sold for $60,000 was now worth way more. They still had some opportunities, but they were so few that Robert had to see them as valuable assets and invest his time. So they moved on. Now, they had to look for new opportunities. Here's a question for you to ask yourself. Working hard itself is hard work. Pay your taxes and save the rest. Those savings will earn you 5% interest, and you'll have to pay tax on that too. Instead, it's better to invest your money and time in your most powerful asset, your mind, and become financially smart. The world never stays the same. If not today or tomorrow, there will always be ups and downs. Technology will keep improving over time. The market might be up today, but it'll go down tomorrow, especially the stock market. It changes every day. But how much will that really affect you if you're financially smart, you'll be ready for any situation. You'll get tons of opportunities in life where you can make the most of your financial intelligence. You just need to grab those chances. Generally, there are two types of investors. First, those who buy package investments, which is pretty simple and hassle-free. Then there are investors who create their own investments. They're like professionals. They make way more money than they put in. Now, if you're this kind of investor, if you want to become an investor, you especially need to focus on these 3 skills. First, find opportunities that others can't even see. Remember, your mind can spot things that others' eyes miss. Second, grow your money. When middle-class people need cash, they just go to the bank. But smart investors raise capital by increasing their funds, so they don't always need to rely on banks. And third, surround yourself with smart people. Intelligent folks are those who work alongside people even smarter than themselves. So, before investing, make sure you pick the right investment advisor. I know this might seem a bit overwhelming for you, but the rewards are totally worth it. Life is full of risks, but you can only get rich if you learn how to handle them. And along with that comes the 6th lesson. Work to learn, not just for money. Here's the thing. Once, a journalist interviewed Robert. He had read Robert's articles before and really liked the journalist's writing style. When the interview ended, Robert told her that she wants to become a famous writer one day, just like him. So Robert asked her, "What's stopping you from becoming famous?" The journalist replied that her job isn't progressing. Robert suggested she should take a sales class. The journalist said a friend had already offered her that, but she thought it was too minor a task. She had forgotten that Robert himself had once attended sales school. So the point is, if you have some talent and want to make money from it, chances of your talent alone won't cut it. Because until you know how to use that talent effectively, it's just wasted. Unless you learn how to showcase your talent to people, you won't earn anything. So, there's no shame in learning the art of selling. No salesperson should feel embarrassed about that. The biggest difference between a rich dad and a poor dad was that the poor dad was always worried about job security, always concerned about keeping his job safe, because for them, a safe job was everything, while rich dads always insisted on learning something. To become rich, you've got to learn a lot. Looking at it from another angle, schools reward us for mastering just one specific thing. For example, When doctors get their master's degree, they then specialize in one particular field, like pediatrics or something else. Basically, they have to study a lot about that small subject to become experts, and that's their reward. Similarly, the little knowledge you pick up here, and there is just a bit of what you need to truly know. You'll really learn when you work for different companies, see how things work in the world, and gain hands-on experience. That's how your knowledge grows. Maybe that's why Rich Dad used to take young Robert and Mike along whenever he met with doctors, accountants, lawyers, or other professionals. When Robert quit his steady, comfortable job to join the Marine Corps, his poor but educated parents couldn't understand why he gave up such a great position. They were genuinely disappointed and didn't get his decision. He tried every possible way to explain to them why it was necessary for him to do that, but they just couldn't accept it. Robert told them he wanted to learn how to fly under the open sky. He wanted to understand how to manage a team of workers and how tough it is to run any company on your own. Robert wanted to learn all this. After returning from Vietnam, Robert quit his job and joined Xerox Corp. He didn't take the job for any gain. He was so shy that he couldn't sell anything to anyone. Just the thought of it made him break out in a sweat. To fix this weakness, he took a sales training program at Xerox. After that, Robert started his own company and sent out his first shipment. If he had failed, he would have definitely gone bankrupt. But he took the risk and remembered his rich dad's advice. You can afford to go bankrupt before 30 because you still get a chance to bounce back at that age. Most employers pay their workers just enough so they don't quit, and most people work their guts out just so they don't get fired. That's why they only care about their salary and the perks they get from the company. With this mindset, a few years pass by, but it doesn't work in the long run. So why not learn everything you want to learn right now before you pick a specific profession for yourself? Because once you choose your profession, you're stuck with it forever. So friends, that's where the summary ends. Thank you